Huh? Why me? I work as a salesperson at a small company in the countryside, and out of nowhere, I got an arranged marriage meeting with the daughter of the president of the biggest company in the country. I have no idea why such a thing would happen to me. At first, I was confused, but they insisted on meeting me, so I agreed to the arranged marriage meeting. And on the day of the meeting, as I was feeling nervous, my arranged marriage partner, Catherine, gave me a big smile. "I'm so glad to finally meet you." After that, a shocking truth was revealed. My name is Bob. I'm turning 25 this year. I've never had any outstanding talents, and I didn't have any aspirations or dreams for the future. So, when I was job hunting, I had a hard time deciding which company to join. I got a job offer just before graduating from college 3 years ago. The company I joined is a small company located in the countryside that mainly deals with food products. There's no particular reason why I chose this company. It's just because they hired me. In the first place, when job hunting season comes around, you get countless rejection emails. I didn't have the mental strength to endure that, but I'm glad I was able to get a job at my current company. The benefits are good, and there's no excessive overtime. There's no such thing as working on holidays either. Of course, there's no kind of jock-like atmosphere where you're forced to go to drinking parties. Salespeople are supposed to have a lot of drinking parties, to some extent. But at our company, there's none of that at all. Drinking parties are held frequently, but participation is voluntary, and you won't be left out if you don't participate. So for someone like me who doesn't like interacting with people more than necessary, my current company is incredibly comfortable. But there's just one thing that's been bothering me. That's John, who joined as a new employee 6 months ago. John joined the same sales department as me, but his personality is the exact opposite of mine. He's proactive, speaks his mind clearly, and is the type to actively approach his seniors. "Bob, aren't you gonna come to the drinking party? You're kinda downer." On days when I was told things like that, I'd go home feeling down and be comforted by my cat. Since becoming a working adult, I've been busy with work and moved to the countryside for my job, so I hadn't had a girlfriend in the past few years. Apparently, that was also a perfect topic for John to tease me about. The day I was teased about not having a girlfriend was the day of John's welcome party. That day, I had to work overtime, so I arrived at the drinking party a little later than everyone else. "Sorry I'm late. It took longer than expected to finish up." Even though I did nothing wrong, I apologized and sat at the end of the table. Then, John, who noticed I had arrived, approached me with a glass in hand. "You're late. Everyone was waiting for you." Saying that, he forcibly put the glass in my hand. I'm not very good with alcohol, so at drinking parties, I drink non-alcoholic beverages or juice. I've told John this many times, but he keeps pushing alcohol on me, saying that not being able to drink alcohol isn't adult-like. Well, today is John's welcome party. Thinking that, I accepted the glass. Now that Bob has joined us, let's all make another toast. Cheers. Cheers. I had intended to enjoy the drinking party to some extent and then go home early. I have to feed my cat at home, and more than anything, I needed some comfort right now. But John, being the jock type, wouldn't let me go. In the end, I ended up staying there as John wanted. Come to think of it, Bob, you're not married, right? Do you have a girlfriend? By the way, I have a long-distance girlfriend. It may seem like he's asking about me, but it's obvious he just wants to brag about his girlfriend. Nah, I haven't had a girlfriend since becoming an adult. What, really? That's pretty bad as a man. I mean, how do you plan on getting a girlfriend from now on? I'm enjoying my work right now, and I don't have any opportunities to meet anyone, so I haven't really thought about it. When I answered that, John made an expression of disbelief. Isn't that just an excuse for someone who's not popular? Well, whatever. Listen to my story next. Saying that, John took out his smartphone. This is my girlfriend, and her father is wealthy and rich. So my dream is to marry her in the future and live off her family's wealth. Apparently, John's girlfriend comes from a well-off family, and he thinks that's an attractive aspect of their relationship. Come to think of it, I think I've seen him walking around here with a woman before. As I was thinking that, he grinned as if he saw through my thoughts. Well, This is just a girl I'm keeping around. You know, with long distance, things build up. So I'm just playing around with a few girls here." John said that without any hint of remorse. Having no concept of cheating or two-timing, I didn't know how to react. If I point out that it's wrong, it'll ruin the mood, but I also don't have the sensibility to just laugh it off. As I was wondering how to respond, John started laughing loudly. "Don't make such a scary face. This is pretty normal these days. You just don't get it 'cause you're out of touch with romance. Is that how it is? That's how it is. Everyone, listen up. Apparently Bob hasn't had a girlfriend in years." After raising his voice, John said that loud enough for everyone there to hear. I had never talked about my private life to anyone at the company before. It's not like I was hiding it, but I just didn't have any interesting stories, and I didn't like the feeling of being seen through. And yet, John barged into my personal life without hesitation and trashed it without question. I barely remember the second half of the welcome party. When I came to, I was petting my cat while holding a bottle of water. I forced myself to attend because it was a welcome party, but I guess these things really aren't for me. Thinking that, I crawled into my bed. From then on, John started teasing me about everything. Bob wouldn't know 'cause he doesn't have a girlfriend. Having a girlfriend and work are separate things. Don't get so worked up. It's just a joke, you know. When I pointed out that John makes a lot of careless mistakes, somehow it turned into a conversation about romantic partners. Also, when I warned him about taking long breaks or coming in late for several days in a row, he would always, without fail, say that I wouldn't understand because I don't have a girlfriend. Gradually, the other employees started to find it amusing and show signs of going along with John. I should probably get married soon too. When that happens, I'm gonna quit this company right away. I could hear John's voice like that during a break. Apparently, his long-distance girlfriend is approaching her 30s and telling him she wants to get married soon. She's quite a bit older, so I'm hesitant, but getting a meal ticket is tempting. As if to block out John's voice, I put on my noise-canceling earphones. I bought these earphones recently and only use them at work. They're useful for blocking out unpleasant voices and sounds, so I don't play any music at all. Still, they help me concentrate on work and reduce stress in various ways. They have been helpful in many ways. And John finally proposed to his girlfriend, it seems. "Bob, I'm gonna get married before you." He came to report his marriage to me, but announced it in a provoking manner. By this point, I had developed various feelings towards John like anger, exasperation, and pity. However, it's true that I was jealous of the fact that he had a girlfriend who loved him even though he cheated and two-timed. Will I go through life without ever dating or marrying anyone? I'm only 25, so it's not an age to be in a rush, but being teased by John every day made me gradually become nervous. At that time, I suddenly got a call from my parents who live in New York. I wondered if they were going to ask me about getting married soon. Feeling a bit of anxiety, I answered the phone. "It's been a while. Are you doing well? Are you eating properly?" When I picked up, I heard my mom's usual voice. "Of course I'm doing well and eating." "That's good. You don't contact us often, so I get worried. By the way, since you called, does that mean you have something to talk about?" It was a day off, but I had plans to go out, so I wanted her to get to the point. Then, my mom took a deep breath and said something unbelievable. "Would you be interested in an arranged marriage meeting? Actually, there's a woman who's inquiring about you right now." "Huh? An arranged marriage? For me?" "Yeah, she says she wants to meet you. She's a girl who comes to the classes I attend, and apparently her father is the president of the biggest company in the country. She seems to know about you." With the sudden news, I felt my thoughts short-circuiting. I was already surprised to get an arranged marriage offer, but the other party is the daughter of the president of the biggest company in the country. Moreover, she apparently knows me, even though I don't know anything about her. Are you listening? Her name is Catherine. She's the same age as you, 25. I'm listening, but this Catherine person said she wants to meet me, right? That's right. As soon as I mentioned your name, she said she wants to meet you. Huh? Why me? I unconsciously let out those words. Surely my mother must have thought the same thing. No matter how much I thought about it, I had no idea why the daughter of a company president would want an arranged marriage with me, a salesperson at a small company in the countryside. But while I was bewildered at first, the other party insisted on meeting me, so I reluctantly agreed to the arranged marriage meeting. I heard the other person's name from my mother, but I don't remember it at all. Since we're the same age, I thought maybe we were classmates, but I couldn't find her even when I looked back at my graduation album. My name isn't unusual, so I wondered if they mistook me for someone else with the same name. That thought crossed my mind, but I already agreed to it. Not knowing what to do, I reached the day before the arranged marriage meeting. The meeting will be held in New York, which is a bit far from where I live now. I planned to stay at my parents' place the day before so I wouldn't be late on the day of. I have my suit. Daily necessities look good. Just need to put in the cat food. After thoroughly checking that I hadn't forgotten anything, I bid a temporary farewell to my cat and headed to the station. Before leaving home, my cat kept rubbing against me, perhaps sensing the unusual atmosphere. If even my cat can tell I'm this nervous, I'll definitely be even more nervous tomorrow. Thinking that, I boarded the subway. For the next few hours, I kept thinking about tomorrow's meeting, wondering if it would go well, what kind of person she is, and various other thoughts. Before long, I arrived at the station near my parents' house. I picked out a suitable souvenir for my family and started walking towards my parents' place. After walking about 20 minutes from the station, I could see the familiar scenery and my parents' house. I'm home. Welcome back. Your dad's still at work. I know. Here's a souvenir. I'm tired, so I'm gonna take a short break. I handed the souvenir to my mom, who greeted me, then headed to my room on the second floor. Even though I had moved out, they could have done as they pleased, but they kept my room the same so I could always come back. But now, I'm truly grateful that they kept this private space for me. Just having a place I can always return to is reassuring in itself. I thought I had just sat on the bed to rest for a bit, but before I knew it, I had apparently slept for several hours. It was already pitch dark outside the window, around 7 p.m. At times like this, you'd think a mother would usually come to wake you up, but my mom didn't wake me at all. She must have seen through to my state of mind. I'm nervous about tomorrow's arranged marriage meeting, but I've also been worried about John lately. Being persistently teased is mentally taxing, and I had apparently accumulated stress without realizing it. But it's about time for Dad to come home. I stood up and headed to the living room. It seemed Dad had already come home. Oh, you're back. Dinner will be ready soon, so have a seat. Thanks, I will. Still, I wonder what twist of fate brought an arranged marriage meeting for you. Dad and Mom threw out those words while preparing dinner in the kitchen. That's the point I'm most curious about too. Why me? But thinking about it more is a waste of time, and tomorrow will come anyway. After that, we talked about recent happenings over dinner. We talked about dramas we've been into lately, and food. But I didn't mention being troubled at work. Somehow, I felt like if I confided my worries, I wouldn't be able to bear it. I went to bed early that day and greeted the next day. And then the day of the arranged marriage meeting arrived. I headed to the designated place while feeling nervous. I had never had an arranged marriage meeting before, and I never thought I would in the future either. So I had no idea about the etiquette and desperately searched online last night. Still, if the other party is the daughter of a major company president, she'll probably see right through my superficial knowledge. Anyway, I'll be thorough in behaving in a way that won't embarrass my parents today. While thinking about that and walking, I arrived at the designated restaurant in no time. Following the staff's prompting, I was guided to a private room. My arranged marriage partner, Catherine, had already arrived there. Catherine had a beautiful face that would make you do a double take if you passed her on the street. If she was this pretty, I feel like I would remember her, but she's not in my memory at all. As soon as Catherine saw my face, she gave me a big smile and said, "I'm so glad to finally meet you." Finally. What does that mean? Could it be that we have met before after all? As I sat down in my chair, I decided to ask that question. Have we met before? In response to my question, Catherine made a slightly sad face and said, "Yes, we have. Don't you remember?" Seeing Catherine's sad face, I felt guilty and desperately tried to pull out memories from my head to recall my encounter with her. But no matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't find any memories with Catherine. I'm really sorry. I don't remember. That's understandable. Well, it was quite a while ago. Could you tell me about how we met? Then Catherine told me about our first encounter. We first met in the summer 3 years ago. We were in our senior year of college, busy with job hunting. I think I felt a bit of frustration since my job search wasn't going well. At that time, I helped a woman on the train. It seems that woman was Catherine. Catherine had collapsed on the train due to the stress from daily interviews and lack of sleep. However, for some reason, the people there didn't try to help her at all. One reason might be that the train was full of office workers tired from work and job-hunting students frustrated with their job search. I was in a similar situation and not in a state to help someone. But even so, I couldn't just leave someone collapsed there. That day, I had finished 3 interviews and was on my way home. So I was extremely fatigued and had no mental leeway. But the moment we arrived at the next station, I carried the collapsed woman on my back to the platform and instructed the station staff to call 911. I could have just left it to the station staff and paramedics, but for some reason, I was concerned about whether the woman would be properly taken to the hospital and if she would recover well. Normally an unrelated person like me wouldn't be allowed to ride in the ambulance, but I managed to persuade them to let me. While being transported, the woman was sweating and seemed to be having a bad dream. And after arriving at the hospital, she was put on an IV drip and laid in bed until she woke up. I stayed by her side the whole time, holding her hand until she woke up. They contacted her parents from the hospital, but it seemed they were busy and said they couldn't come. Apparently, both her parents were overseas. Thinking she would feel anxious if she was alone, when she woke up, I stayed by her side the whole time. I had one more interview the next day, but I wasn't concerned about that. I just wanted the woman to wake up safely and feel better. And about 2 hours after being brought to the hospital, the woman finally opened her eyes. Where is this? You're in the hospital. You collapsed on the train. They said it's due to fatigue and stress. You're the one who helped me. I didn't do anything that significant. Even though I should have just honestly said I helped her, for some reason I felt embarrassed and couldn't say it. It was probably because I didn't think of myself as a kind of person who would help others. Then the woman thanked me many times and said she wanted to repay me somehow. But I declined and went home. I've been searching for you ever since, but I never ran into you on the train again. I regretted not getting your contact info. I remember that time. Actually, I had also collapsed on the train before and was taken to the hospital, but when I woke up, my parents weren't there and I felt incredibly anxious. So that's why you stayed by my side. I never would have thought that woman back then was Catherine. I do remember that incident, but if I hadn't been told, I might have forgotten. It's not that Catherine didn't leave an impression on me, but at that time I was just so exhausted that I didn't even know what I was doing myself. It was such a tough period that I can't even recall which companies I interviewed with or what conversations I had with whom. But hearing the story of when I first met Catherine, the memories came rushing back all at once. It's true that I wanted to repay you, but I also fell in love with you at first sight back then. You fell in love with me at first sight. I can't believe such a beautiful person is telling me they fell in love with me at first sight. Even if you flatter me, I don't think I'm good looking at all, and I don't think I have much fashion sense either. I've never been told I have a bad appearance, and I have been complimented, but I thought I had an average appearance. How should I put it? You looked like a hero to me. After that, I dated a few people, but I realized, there's only that person for me. It seems that Catherine tried dating several men who confessed to her after giving up on finding me no matter how much she searched. But no matter who she dated, they would break up after a few months, and her feelings for me apparently grew even stronger. At that time, the person in the flower arrangement class she had started as a hobby was my mother. All Catherine knew was my name and age, but she was surprised to hear about me from my mother. And she wanted to say she wanted to meet me right away, but in her excitement, she ended up saying she wanted an arranged marriage meeting. It must have been a surprise to suddenly have an arranged marriage meeting, right? Of course it was a surprise. I wondered, why me? I figured, I'm glad you didn't turn me down. As Catherine said that, she seemed to relax her shoulders. Surely I wasn't the only one who was nervous. Thinking that, A small smile spilled out. "Ah, you finally smiled." Was I making a scary face? You had a very tense expression. After that, having opened up to each other a bit, we talked about various things. Catherine joined a company as a new graduate, but will ultimately take over her father's company. She can't leave New York, so if we did get married, I would have to move to New York. We talked about things like that for the future. We haven't decided to get married yet, but it was fun talking with Catherine. I'm really glad I got to meet you today, Bob. I want to be in a relationship with you. If you're okay with it, please consider it positively. At the end of the arranged marriage meeting, Catherine said that with a straightforward gaze. I was thinking the same thing. Really. I'm so happy. Up until now, Catherine was a woman who suited the word beautiful, but right now she's gleefully chattering like a cute child. Seeing Catherine like that, I unintentionally laughed. "Ah, you just laughed, right? Sorry. It's just that you were so cute." When I said that, Catherine's cheeks flushed red. After that, Catherine and I parted ways in front of the restaurant and each went home. "Hey, how did it go? Tell us about it in detail." Perhaps sensing my state of mind, they didn't ask about the arranged marriage meeting at all last night, but as soon as I arrived at my parents' house, they asked with great interest. I hesitated on how to answer, but decided to reply honestly. "I don't know about marriage yet, but we're going to start dating. You finally got a girlfriend. We have to celebrate." "All right, should we open that wine today?" "You don't have to get that excited." My parents were even happier than me, and that night, they brought out wine they said they only open on special occasions. That day, the three of us drank until late at night and talked about various things again. And the next weekday, I left the house at the same time my dad went to work. "You hadn't forgotten anything. Come back home anytime." "Thanks. See you later." After a light greeting to my mom, I walked to the station alongside my dad. Without really talking about anything, the two of us headed to the station with light steps. Well, you know, whatever the result, the most important thing is for you to be happy. "Thanks." When we arrived at the station, my dad said just one thing and walked to the platform without looking back. I had felt that my dad didn't approve of me getting a job aimlessly without any goals. But apparently that wasn't the case. Both my dad and mom said it's fine as long as I can live with a smile. On the subway ride back, I thought about many things. And the next day, when I arrived at the company, I submitted my resignation to my boss. "Huh, you're quitting?" "Yes, I'm thinking of going back to New York." "I see. It's troubling and sad for us to lose a capable worker, but it's your life, so live it as you like." I hadn't talked much with my boss, but apparently he had been watching out for me. He knew that John was teasing me together with my coworkers, so he was probably concerned about me. After submitting my resignation to my boss, John approached me with the biggest smile possible. "Bob, you are quitting the company too." "Actually, I'm also quitting to go to New York when I get married." "Is that so? What a coincidence. By the way, why are you quitting? Could it be you're going back to your parents' place or something?" "No, I'm thinking of considering marriage too." At that moment, John's expression stiffened a little, but right after, he let out a condescending laugh. "Quitting your job and going to New York for marriage hunting? How desperate are you to get married?" Apparently, John has the wrong idea, but I didn't feel like correcting him. I thought even if I corrected him, he probably wouldn't believe me anyway. In the end, a few months passed like that, and after finishing the handover, I headed to New York. I have enough savings so there won't be a problem for a while, but I need to find a job. After that, while enjoying life in New York, I did job hunting and advanced my relationship with Catherine. If you hadn't decided where to work yet, how about working at my dad's company? From those words from Catherine, I ended up working at the biggest company. Normally, it would be difficult to even get an interview, but I was able to proceed while skipping the document screening. You could say it's connections, but I properly went through up to the third interview and got hired. And 1 year after coming to New York, I felt like I had started a grounded life. And since it was about to be 1 year since I started dating Catherine, I decided to take the plunge and plan a proposal. "Will you marry me?" "Of course." Catherine cried with joy, and after that, we discussed our plans for marriage. Just as we were talking about our future plans at a cafe, I was suddenly called out from behind. "Hup, could it be Bob?" What a coincidence to meet you here. Surprisingly, the one who called out to me was John, who used to work at the same place as me. I never thought I'd run into him here either, but I remember him saying he was going to New York. Oh, could this be your girlfriend? No, she's out of your league, so is this a honey trap or something? Even though it's the first time meeting Catherine, he's really rude. I tried to argue back, but Catherine spoke first. Nice to meet you, I'm Bob's fiancé. I fell in love with him at first sight and we're dating. Huh, seriously? No way. I'm definitely the better catch. Wanna date me instead? While saying that, John grabbed Catherine's hand. Hey, cut it out. What? Are you jealous? Men's jealousy is scary. Weren't you going to New York to marry your girlfriend? That's right. We're still just engaged though, but she's really not appealing at all. Not my type at all, so I'm seeing a few other girls on the side. Apparently, John is still a cheater even now. I was able to separate him from Catherine, but he was still trying to stick around. Speaking of which, what are you up to these days? I'm freeloading at my girlfriend's place, and from now on I'm gonna live off an earned income without working. I hesitated on how to answer, but decided to reply honestly. I'm working at YH Industries. Huh? That top company in the industry? No way, you're definitely lying. He's not lying. My father is the president of YH Industries. At that moment, John's eyes widened in surprise. Wait, for real? Are you being serious? Yeah, you should definitely date me instead. While saying that, John is trying to hit on Catherine again. As I was thinking about how to get him to leave, he suddenly jolted. Hey, what was that just now? You're seeing other people besides me. Huh, why are you here? You were supposed to come late. That doesn't matter. You were just hitting on this person too, right? This woman who suddenly appeared seems to be John's fiancée. They had planned to meet at this cafe, but he thought she would be late, so he was talking big like that. Hey, calm down. There's a reason for this. I don't want to hear your excuses. I thought you were suspicious for a while. I can't go on with you anymore. Goodbye. Hey, wait a minute. Are you planning to break up? What am I supposed to do when I'm unemployed? I don't care. Get out of the house right now. The fiancée angrily left the cafe, and John chased after her. Sorry for making you experience something unpleasant. He was a weird guy, but it was entertaining. While saying there are people like that too, Catherine cheerfully switched the topic to our wedding. Some time after that, information reached my ears that John had been dumped by his fiancée. The information source was of course people from my previous workplace. Apparently, his cheating with multiple people was found out, so in addition to the broken engagement, he was also asked to pay consolation money. He had thought he would be provided for from now on, so John hadn't worked since coming to New York, and he had used up all the savings from his time as a company employee on his gambling hobby. He's somehow making ends meet by working several part-time jobs to pay the consolation money, but his lifestyle is apparently quite miserable. Even though living in New York should be expensive, for some reason he doesn't want to go back to the countryside. According to him, once you live in the city, you can't go back to country life. While exasperated by John's pride and selfishness to the end, I decided to forget about him. Some time after that, Catherine and I had our wedding ceremony. It was the happiest time in my life, and I unintentionally shed tears. Hey, don't cry. Sorry, it's just that you're so beautiful. The wedding ceremony ended without issue, and we started living together. Even after getting married, we still use a lot of polite language when talking. Our acquaintances told us we should talk more casually since we're close, but this suits us. I vowed to forget about John, but there's one thing I want to make sure not to forget, and that's to treat people with care. John was always looking down on those around him and searching for information he could use as material. And with the mentality that it's fine as long as he doesn't get caught, he kept betraying his fiancée. I've deeply engraved in my heart to never become that kind of person.